this evening is we have 1/2 hour for the mayoral candidates, and then we will proceed to the trustees, then the school candidates, okay? There is a piece of paper that's handed out that has a list of all of the names. So in case there's someone that you're not familiar with and you get to hear them speak this evening, you can make notes for yourself on how they answered questions that were important to you. So obviously this is Heather Hill, and one of the hot topics for our subdivision is the detention basin at Heather Hill Elementary School. Michelle, I will have, Mayor Nelson, I'll have you answer first. The detention basin at Heather Hill Elementary School was a project that many residents strongly opposed due to safety concerns for children and the loss of green space. As an incumbent, did you vote in favor of this project? And if so, can you explain why you supported despite community opposition?
Thank you so much. Back in 2019, there was a terrible flood, and the folks over on Berry Lane were just devastated. And that wasn't the first time they were devastated. They've been devastated, oh gosh, every 5 or so years by flooding in that neighborhood. Same thing with our downtown area. I wasn't on the board then, but they petitioned the board. They kept coming back to the board, wanting help. The board was finally able to put a bond before all of Flossmoor, and the bond was approved overwhelmingly back in 2020. And in 2021, we started bringing in major grant funds. While I do understand that there's some folks who oppose the project, there were quite a big number of folks who also supported the project. Every time it would rain, a big storm, their basements were totally wiped out, devastating to their property, to their homes, to their personal effects. Same thing with some of our business owners. We lost several major business owners in downtown Flossmoor due to the flooding. We did try to look at several options that we thought would be good for balance, and not all of those options were available. We just kept coming back to one option that was available. And I know that it didn't make some folks happy, and I definitely apologize for that. We try to build collaboration in everything we do, but we have to move forward and we have to get this project done. It's been on the books for over 40 years. It's time to finally fix the flooding in Heather Hill and help people protect their homes and their personal effects, and also protect them.
As an incumbent, as a trustee, you were there at the same table, at the same vote. So please explain why you did not support it despite.
Well, yes, being a Heather Hill resident, not only a Heather Hill resident, but a PTO member at the Heather Hill School. So I was on the board in 2020 when the referendum was passed, and I know that we did suffer a great loss in 2019 from that great storm. Knowing what we know in terms of being a collaborative community, it would have been an expectation, I believe, to have our community members at the table, because as you heard earlier, there was conversations about different opportunities of where to put the detention basin. And so having that information out there that we were trying to resolve flooding, it would have meant inviting our residents to the table, regardless of where it was going to go, to find out best practices on how we communicate with the neighbors, the public, the businesses, because I gotta have a little bit of audience participation here. How many people wanted their homes to flood? I see no hands. So I think everybody would have been collaborative and wanting to come to the table to find a result that would have been pleasing for everyone. In a community, we don't want to have forums and focus groups for certain projects. If we're opening that opportunity up for some things, opening up for everything, especially if this is the most invested project in Flossmoor history. So Heather Hill, part of the project was $3.5 million. Wouldn't that have been something, if you get invited to the table for a downtown business modification for our central business district, wouldn't that have been something you would have wanted to be invited to the table for in your own backyard? Yes.
Okay, the next question, we'll start with you. Let me take your microphone here.
How do you plan to rebuild community trust?
In my opinion, the easiest way to create community trust is by inviting the community out for a conversation, letting the community know the plan to have events, to be a listening ear, and by showing them how we should operate. The community, I believe, is accustomed to having a seat at the table here in Flossmoor, and so having a seat at the table to show exactly how we function as a board, I think, is going to be the way that will be the bridge for the community. So the trustees being more visible, working with our commissions, giving the commissions more power and opportunity to interact with the residents, and being able to have a huge event that everybody enjoys. We have so many neighborhoods in Flossmoor. It is an opportunity for us to come together collectively by the way that we have done it in the past, and the innovative way of getting our young people engaged, getting our seniors engaged. There's a huge gap, and so being able to fulfill that gap by investing in the tools that people are expressing to us that they want. The community wants to come together. Nobody wants to see us divided, and I think that showing the community how to do that by bringing the community events back and focused around our neighborhoods and focusing around the board is the best way.
Thank you so much. How to rebuild community trust. I consider my biggest job here as mayor, as your advocate, and so I would say continue advocating for you, and part of advocating for you is being available. I take phone calls anywhere from 6:30 a.m. until 11 o'clock at night, helping folks with issues that they're dealing with, whether it's a passport issue, whether it's residential flooding. I'm always on call for you, helping steer traffic and get you the help that you need from the people that you need help for. One of the things that we realized as we went through the Heather Hill Basin project was that even though we thought we were communicating a lot, we had like 30 different methods of communication that went out for that project. We can't stop. We have to continue to communicate. Even when we think we're communicating enough, we have to communicate more. And one of the things that we did in the past year was we brought on a media and communications manager to help us make sure that our communications were more regular and also standardized. So that has been incredibly helpful for us to improve as we move forward. Like I said, most folks, I take calls all day into the evening. Most folks have my cell phone number. If you don't have it, you probably know somebody who does. And then also I take that extra step to go to most homeowners association meetings and a lot of other organizational meetings because it allows me to connect with you. You can come, we'd love to see you at our board meetings. They're the first and third Mondays of every month at 7 p.m. But the truth is, you're not always gonna come to our meetings. It's important for me to be out where you are and meeting you.
Thank you. We have one question from the audience.
I want to know if there is a possibility of getting cameras at the school that work. I don't think that art is paramount to cameras and safety. I would like some license plate readers at all the entrances and the exits. We have working men at the elementary school, and if anything happens to one of those children, we won't have a trace, a marker, a site, or what they look like. Now you have to pay the therapist, the psychiatrist, and the psychologist if anything happens to any of those children. Working cameras, not decorations. Fix the street. I haven't had the street fixed in 50 years. I moved here in 1974. I've never had my street paved. Now we got to get busy with doing some things that are constructive and important. The art isn't paramount. Safety on all the houses, on apartment buildings, are all using cameras. The school has no working cameras, an elementary school. I think that's just terrible. And I would like to have more safety.
Thank you so much. Those are great questions. With the cameras at school that work, it's my understanding that SD 161 is looking at cameras for their building. So that's something that we will want to
I'll just talk, whatever. So that's something that we're gonna want to stay on top of and work collaboratively with the school district, so that way we're not stepping on each other's toes or spending unnecessary tax dollars by duplicating our efforts. So that's one, that's cameras at school. LPRs, right now, we are just about done, if not totally done, with LPRs at all of the entrance and exit points, catching folks who are coming and going from the village. The focus has been putting those on the main roads, because typically if somebody's gonna commit a crime, they're gonna be leaving the village. So we wanna see which way they're going, and then we coordinate with neighboring organizations to effectively find them and arrest them. And then street paving, we have this great system. It's a PASER, PASER system that rates streets from 0 to 10. If you tell me where you live, what street you're on, I will be able to go back and see what the rating of that street is, and so that way I can give you some maybe idea of when that's going to get fixed. I know streets are an issue. When I came into this position, there are $18 million worth of street repairs that needed to be done. We get $300,000 a year in motor fuel tax money. So that will tell you that that doesn't alone do it. So that's why I've focused on grant work. We've got a record number of grants for other infrastructure items, which help us offset some of our own general fund into street repair.
The safety issue actually came up in the board meeting on Monday that I raised as it pertains to the cameras. It came before the board based on some parental concerns at Heather Hill, and the board had not talked about it since then. And so I asked the question as to where things were and who was going to be responsible, and the conversation is going to be brought back up again because no one was taking the lead on the project to make sure that the kids' safety was paramount. As it pertains to the streets being paved, the PASER survey that was mentioned is the way that we determine the quality of the street. But that survey had been done in 2016, 2017, and so the streets continue to deteriorate over time. The village had a GIS system so that we can collaborate which streets are where in that process. We need to do a better job of keeping track of those streets and being able to communicate that information to you, the residents. We're only budgeting a certain amount of monies to handle the streets, and so we have to keep that in our purview. As it pertains to the LPR rating cameras, I think it would be really good to talk with our chief of police to determine if that is something that we need to look at in terms of leaving the schools. Having input from residents is really important because you all have perspectives that we may not have thought about.
You both ran on diversity before. Why are so few minority contracts issued to diverse businesses?
That's a great question, and sometimes our projects don't even go out to bid. So that is an additional problem where we are keeping the status quo. I've talked to our Public Works Department, and in terms of how that information is being communicated to the public, we have to communicate to people how they like to be communicated to and be able to go where people are. And so at this moment, I don't believe that we are going where the contractors are and getting that information out to widen the span of opportunities. We have a list of contractors that we continuously go to, and they continuously find our information when they are seeking projects. So we have to actually have an additional opportunity to give people an opportunity for these contracts. To go back to something that was said about our residents and communication, I just want to address how the Heather Hill Detention Basin didn't get the name the Heather Hill Detention Basin until year 4 of the project. And I know how I like to be communicated to. I want to call the thing by its name so that I can pay attention to it. The Flossmoor Road Viaduct project was the name of the project. And having a seat at the table and communicating that information to the village was something that I was hoping that my board would have listened to, because I heard all of you.
But you didn't tell everybody that that's what it was.
Say what?
You were at the table, but you didn't tell everybody that's what it was.
What does that mean?
That the viaduct was also included the Heather Hill detention basin.
The residents would have
But
liked,
you're a resident of Heather Hill.
and I communicated that.
So-
I communicated that the residents were not paying attention to Flossmoor Road Viaduct project. I communicated very clearly and consistently.
Okay. The diversity question. When I became mayor, we brought in Wilbur Millhouse. Millhouse is an engineering company, it's black owned. He actually used to live in the village of Flossmoor. He was a civil engineer from the University of Illinois, so I had a great admiration for him and the quality of work that I knew he would produce. We brought him in to evaluate our roads and also do the redesign on one of our major road projects. So it was a real great honor to get to work with him, and we'd like to do more with him, definitely in the future. We have to competitively bid our projects. That's a legal requirement. The only way we can get out of competitively bidding a project is if it's a specialty item that we can't get anywhere else, if it's a specialty service. So we do try to bring in diverse women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses to do work here in the village. It doesn't always work out that way. We ask, but sometimes their playbill gets filled, and so we don't always have the opportunity to bring them on. But it's definitely something that that I have supported, that I've been a big proponent of, and will continue to advocate for. Thank you.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left.
The next question is, in retrospect, do you believe the situation with Chief Jones should have been handled differently, and how? We'll start with Mayor Nelson.
Sure. Nobody was more disappointed than I was when things didn't work out with former Chief Jones. I found him out of a nationwide search, and I had high hopes for longevity here in the village of Flossmoor, leading our department and helping us spring us forward, so to speak. So when it became apparent that wasn't going to happen, I had to make some not difficult decisions, but painful decisions. Employee situations are extremely painful. The board was completely aware of the issues. Some board members said, we'll keep him just till the end of his one-year term and then get rid of him. Other board members said, lower the standards for that job. Never gonna lower the standards for you or for the chief of one of our departments. Another board member said, let's just hire extra people to do the parts of his job that he didn't want to do. I'm not gonna do that either. Our tax dollars are too precious. You work too hard to pay to live in this village, and I will not lower our standards for you. So at my last meeting with the former chief, I said, Chief, how are you gonna fix these issues? He said, I'm not gonna talk with you about it. I asked him again. Again, he said, I'm not gonna talk with you about it. And I asked him a third time. And the third time he said, I'm not gonna talk with you about it. It broke my heart. We had to make a painful decision, but it wasn't very difficult because he wasn't willing to talk about how he could do his job better.
The situation with former Chief Jarrell Jones, as many of the residents here are aware of, I had extreme opposition to. The reason for my opposition was because I was presented with the write-up. It wasn't even a performance review, it was a write-up of things that he did not do correctly. And the caliber of things that were noted were not things that usually you would complain about. So he talked too long during the meeting. He used his cell phone during Flossmoor Fest, and that use of Flossmoor Fest was the hugest thing that was a problem. It was his use of a cell phone, and it was claimed to be like Uvalde, Texas. And I did not like that comparison. In Uvalde, Texas, there were 19 children killed. There were several people injured. And so the caliber of things that were being brought forward were not appropriate for the situation. And I was trying to help and talk through things with our mayor and village manager to help them see that the things that were being brought forward were not fireable offenses. And I really felt like it was some disparity in how he was being viewed. I was one of few board members that actually had a conversation with the former chief and asked that our board have that same opportunity so that we all could understand and see and hear his side of the story. Unfortunately, the board members decided that that wasn't something that they wanted to do.
Okay, this is a quick 1-minute question. Would you bring back Flossmoor Fest?
I would bring back More Fest. Flossmoor is an area where not all of our children attend HF. And so I'm told that the reason we don't have Flossmoor Fest is, I heard at another forum, was because the businesses didn't want it. The businesses made their money from Flossmoor Fest. They got their money from Flossmoor Fest to get them through the holidays. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the downtown businesses, the shops on Sterling, most of them are gone. Over 30 to 40 businesses have left Flossmoor in the last 4 years. And so, yes, I would bring back more events because we love to get together. We love to patronize our businesses. We love community. And so we will have not only Fest, but More Fest. I think that it is an opportunity for us to collaborate, to get to know each other, and to make sure that we still have the connection of what matters to you matters to me. And I think that's what's been lost.
Thank you so much. So Flossmoor Fest had ballooned from a $50,000 a year project to a $60,000 a year project to an $80,000 a year project. And if you recall, at the last fest, we were completely surrounded by fencing. We had several mobile command vehicles there. We had rooftop units with armed folks up there. And then we also had on-the-ground officers. And then we also had drones circling. It didn't feel like Flossmoor Fest. It felt quite the opposite. So we chose to change things up, and we doubled down on fundraising to bring down our costs. Now, if you want more festivals, that's something that we would have to reprioritize in our budget. The money has to come from somewhere. One of the other things that we've done is we've had more smaller fests, places for where people can come together, whether it's through volunteerism or the Chamber Night, which I actually fundraised for and put on starting in 2021. I think festivals and volunteerism are crucially important to building community, but I also think you have to keep your mind on the cost and also on the outcome and make sure that it is a safe and that we outcome and that we can all afford it.
Okay, we have a minute and a half left for each of you to have your concluding statements, please. We'll start with Mayor Michelle.
I was gonna say, I went first, so do you want Trustee Bradley Scott to start first?
Okay, Trustee Bradley Scott, you go first.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. It's been an honor to serve you over the last 8 years as your clerk and your trustee. We are at a pivotal time right now to make a decision on who we want to run our town. And I look at it as a partnership, not a dictatorship. When we think about how we build community, it is together. Flossmoor is diverse in nature, by color, but it's not diverse in thought, it's not diverse in opportunity, it's not diverse in culture. As your mayor, I will listen to you. The personal phone calls and the personal connections are great, but what can be said in the dark will come to light. And let's have it be known publicly, more interactively, often. So I appreciate those of you who will vote for me because I'm your friend. I appreciate that. But I wanted you to vote for me because I'm a leader, because I am communicative, because I am inclusive, because I don't only look out for my kids, I look out for all of our kids. All of our kids have opportunities to be great in this community. They just need the access. We have retired individuals who would love to get back to our K through 8 and high schoolers. We have too much talent in our community not to tap into that. Those are the things that I would bring here to Flossmoor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. I truly hope that this was helpful for you. I'm so glad you brought up diversity. I was the first mayor in the Southland to sign on to the Juneteenth Festival. It was my honor. I wrote a personal check to help with the event as well. And when she had a shortfall last year, I wrote her another personal check, and I advocated for residents to help support Destiny Watson in any matter too. I built the Kinara that brought and started the celebration of Kwanzaa here in the village as a public celebration. I paid for a film crew to go up to Ann Arbor, Michigan to interview Dr. Maurice Page. She was the first Black resident of Flossmoor until she got a little older and needed to move in with her daughter, who was the U.S. ambassador from here to a country in Africa. So it's been my honor to help move us forward in our efforts to create a more diverse, inclusive, and beautiful village of Flossmoor. We promoted the heck out of this place with regional, state, national, and international awards and recognition. We've grown the village of Flossmoor, adding 4 more new properties to the tax rolls with plans to add 13 townhomes and a restaurant space on Flossmoor Road. Also another new exciting restaurants coming to us on Governor's Highway, and we're building tremendous momentum for developing Volmer Road. Infrastructure, we've raised over $7.3 million in grants. And that's not an accident, that's hard work. That's people with that money trusting us to spend it wisely. And then we've also raised our home values, 14% more than the average in Chicagoland over the past 4 years. I've been proud to serve. If you have any questions, I'm here. I'm just a phone call away, as you know. Thank you so much.